So here we are talking about the Union Force, and I love doing this. Every time I get Union bindings, I do a full-on sampler. I go through the whole thing, and I wrote a lot of different bindings today. You know, the Union Force are bindings I know really well. I've ridden them for a whole season, for off and on for seasons, for a few seasons here now over the last 10 years or so. And I love these bindings. I love what they do, and they're at a pretty good price point. They're like mid twos, and you know, the one binding they compare with the most, it's kind of like the Burton Cartel have the missions, the Union Atlas have the Force. So it's just kind of like, it's just kind of right there with the Force. And so, you know, I was out on one of my favorite boards, the Oz Custom Woody, which is a hybrid camber board, and it's got medium fast turn initiation, and it really likes, you know, bindings of all types. You can really see the board's response. Where some boards are kind of not quite as much, don't quite have the response. When you change out bindings, you don't feel the difference as much. Some boards are like that. Some boards only really want really responsive bindings, and it falls apart after this. This board you can kind of pair it up with just about any kind of binding. And so I loved going out with my Atlas first, and kind of finishing with the Union Force here. And you know, they've got a lot going on for them. First off, you know, I love this adjustable toe ramp and adjustable heel loop. It's just amazing. And I've learned a little trick. I used to take these both apart and, you know, and use this little high back rotation right here. I don't know if you can see in there, but there are 3 options in here. But what I noticed is when I do that, this curves in a little bit, and then it pokes into the side of your boot and kind of erodes the side. So this year I just said, fuck it, I'm close enough. And you can do this with the Force and with the Atlas, where you can't do it with some of the other, you know, like the mini disc bindings that have a single plate. You can't do it as well, but you can do it there too. But instead, I just pulled this side out and pushed this side all the way in and then tightened it. So you can see it's kind of in line with the heel edge, and it's rotated. And then I push this all the way in, and I'm pretty centered overboard still. And it works great with my size 9 boots. And I feel like I'm getting all of the toe ramp and all the response, and I still get that rotation, so I love that. I love the dampening properties here. It's a pretty damp ride on the heel, and there's some, you know, some good shock absorption in the toe. It's a full disc, and when you're comparing it to, like, you know, the Union Contact Pro or some of the much more expensive kind of their Ultra series, you know, their super expensive mini disc series, like the Falcor and like, you know, like the Union Ultra and the FC Ultra, you're looking at, like, those are the butterability, you know, with all those is so much better. And that might be my one thing I'd love to see, is them keep everything. Keep this toe ramp, keep this heel loop, but just add a mini disc, because the butterability is better with those bindings than it is with this and the Atlas. However, you know, it's still pretty good. It's not like, it's not the worst out there by any means. It's kind of on the upper tier still. It's kind of mid-level. And it feels more damp. The board feels more damp underfoot. The turn initiation is almost the same between these two. You're kind of getting almost the same response. I'd say this is a touch more responsive, but you're looking at 2 different things. You're looking at, you know, different ankle straps. The ankle straps are much better, I personally think, on the Atlas, but these Force ankle straps are really good. You know, you're looking at a different base plate. The base plate's a little, it seems like it's a little lighter and just a little bit better of a base plate. Maybe that's what gives it a little extra response. You've got a little bit softer high back than this, but this has a pretty good twist too. But this just feels like a little more easier where this is really stiff when you pull back. This just feels like it bites less on the calf, just a touch. I mean, neither of them really bite that much, but this just feels a little more comfortable than this one. And that's why I often, that's why I own 3 pair of Atlas. And I say to most people, if you can't afford the Atlas and you want to price down, you want to price down like, what is it, like $40 or $50 or something like that, the Force is a great option. You're also getting an auto cant with the Atlas, a cant with the Atlas, and I love that compared to just a regular. I love that inward lean, and it's just much easier on my joints and a lot of people's joints. I've heard a lot of people mention that as well. Toe straps, even though they're slightly different, this has more rubber, this is a little minimized, but they're both really just grip around the toe. They're probably my favorite toe straps in the industry. So all in all, I think the Union Force is a very adjustable, very good binding that you can really dial out. I love the disc that it just, I'll show you the disc in the On the Table review, but you can see just there's these long channels, and if you turn it sideways, you have almost, and you're centered, your binding centered on board. You bought the right width board, and you can center your binding on board like this, like I did with my custom Woody. You can slide it almost as much as you can with like a Burton channel system, and that's what I love. That's what I love over the mini disc. So it's kind of a give and take. You get more butterability with the mini disc, but you get more adjustability with this, and you can kind of put the two together in the middle and really slide it up and down more, or go with the traditional. It really works well, and it really allows you to kind of fit almost any stance width that a board can offer. Like, find your favorite stance width no matter how the board is set up. So that's what I really like about the Union Force and the Union Atlas. And so I would say, if you don't need auto cant, if you don't need the coolest and newest ankle strap, but you want something with good support, but also good freedom of movement, and good ratchets on both boards. The ratchets have really come a long way over the last like 4 or 5 years. I can't remember now, but in the past they used to be a lot less easy. Now they're just super easy. I mean, they're just like right up there with Burton and any other great ratchet. They just kill it. And I could easily spend a season on these. I have before. I'm kind of more partial to the Atlas because I like the auto cant. I like the high back a little better. But if you can live without that and the fancier base plate and all that jazz, then this is a great binding for the price, and it's highly recommendable year over year. If for people on a budget, I always recommend this because you can find, let's say, last year's, because this really didn't change much. So there you have it. That's the Force and a comparison to the Atlas.